here and for doing an outstanding job. It was an honor and a pleasure working with you guys this year. I wish you all the best going into the future. With regards to Dr. Borriello, I must say I've never been to dinner with him and his kids, but I have seen a couple of ruptured aneurysms. I don't know what those dinners are like. I remember the very first time I met Obaida. Maybe he can refresh my memory on that as well.
I'm trying to inhibit that.
It was a long time ago, and Obaida was actually doing some paperwork in the residence room, and he had a pretty interesting outfit on that day. He was wearing a bandana, which read "Free Syria," and, with a similar T-shirt and a scarf, a Syrian scarf.
Before the residency.
So I happened to walk in there with Dr. Saman, who was never at a loss for words, and he took one look at Dr. Batal, and he's like, "What on earth are you wearing?" What did he say to you, Obaida? He was like, "You have to make yourself a little bit less noticeable." Essentially unnoticeable. So over the years, I think Obaida has changed a lot. I think he's become a great person, an outstanding doctor. I truly would trust him with the care of anyone in my family. As all of those who know me well would tell you, I've always been big into sports. Whenever I pick up a book, it's usually to read about sports or sports figures or things along those lines. There was this one quote from Mike Tyson that struck me particularly. Even though I never considered Mike Tyson to be a particularly intelligent guy or a very eloquent guy, but he was undergoing this one interview on ESPN, and he was asked the following question. So, Mr. Tyson, what does it take for a young fighter to be successful? And his response actually astonished me. I thought he was going to say something very different from what he said. And what he said was this. He basically said, I don't care if you're a fighter or anything else. If you truly want to be successful, you just have to be willing to absorb pain, physical, emotional, psychological. I think Obaida did that. Very well.
I'm still absorbing.
He's like a sponge. And I think that made him a much better person. I'm happy to have him here today. Sad to see him leave along with our other residents, but certainly happy to have him here. Congratulations.
Leave myself with a pretty tough challenge since my speech got torn by Dr. Reyes. Of my graduation in this book. Not only me are going to suffer, you guys are going to suffer with a guy with a book in English and scattered memories. Okay, I know how to start. So, it's a great day for all of us, for my fellow Chief President, Dr. MLA, Dr. Ardina Patel. Today we finish a chapter of our life called the Surgical Residency. And we're going to have a brief moment of joy and celebration, and tomorrow we're going to start preparing for the next chapter. So I still remember the very first day that I started thinking about that path, coming to the United States for the residency. And it's a quite difficult decision to make, taking my background. I was born and raised in Syria. And in Syria, in order to make that decision, really you have to have a dedicated, long hours and days of studying, especially Dr. Pahon can agree that we study medicine in Arabic in Syria. So in order to translate every single information you have into different language and study all the information again in different culture and different language. In addition to that, we need constant financial support for that. And that's a pretty tough decision taken. Like, I came from kind of middle class family. My mother is a teacher. My father is also like, he's a government employee. So I still remember that day when I bought the books and I started like, it took me a day for a page. And that continued for a while. And the other part was like I had to work in my medical school. I had to work as a nurse and some of the Aleppo private hospital. And when I progressed to we have 6-year pathway, when I was in 5th and 6th year of my medical school, I worked as a doctor in private hospitals in Aleppo, and I was sometimes the only doctor in that hospital. So one day a nurse called me for a neonate with who's about like 5 days old with a arrested heart, and I have to 5 o'clock in the morning and go and deal with it, and I have to press his chest and that hospital was so pretty remote that like, we don't have a mask that fit the baby. And like, I was really blowing his face with that big mask, and it's not working. And I was doing the chest compression, and it's not working. Then I blew a very small whisper of my mouth to this like 3-day-old like neonate, and I blew it a bit, and the baby started breathing. And then I injected him with I can't remember the dose, and I didn't calculate it. I gave him some atropine, and the heart started beating. And then that was when I came back to my lecture in my medical school, 7 o'clock in the morning. That was one of the most, like, I can say, prestigious days of my life, when I saved that life. And that gave me more commitment to that profession and commitments to change people's life. I still remember the day when I was traveling. Coming to Damascus. Before that, I'm gonna remember I sent tons of emails, like about more than 400 to 500 emails to the medical schools here in the United States, asking them to accept me for kind of rotation, all into the Department of Medicine, because in Syria nobody even can think about coming to surgical residency. So they told me they have to be realistic, and I was realistic that time, and I applied for a lot of medical rotation. 500 emails was sent, none of them get answered with any, but barely some of them have some apologies. And then I sent one single email. The only email that I got answered is from the chief of surgery at Emory University. And he accepted me to a rotation there. So I felt that maybe interpretation, this is the message from God. The only shot that you have is the surgery shot, then you have to be a surgeon. And I decided that from that time, I decided not to be realistic anymore. And I still, that's why I was wearing that bandana. I still remember Will Smith, when he was interviewed, he said, being realistic is the most commonly traveled road to mediocrity. And I'm not going to travel that road at all. But not all the time. How can you be realistic? So, where were we? So I'm coming to Damascus for my visa interview at the American Embassy in Damascus. I was finishing an exam in Aleppo. I had very few hours to travel to Damascus. I barely made the bus, and there was a big accident that caused tremendous jam. That jammed the traffic. I was late for 3 hours. When I arrived to the embassy, they did not let me in because I'm late to the appointment. And I was very frustrated that my rotation is starting next week, and if I lost it, all this week, 6 months of really hard work and emails, and it will go vanish. And if I lost it, it's going to be a big deal for me. And I lost the interview. They asked me to come 2 weeks after that. I was so frustrated. I was just was holding from my cell phone. There was no coverage because there was security around there. And then I went aimlessly into the street. And I found some antique shop in some street in Damascus. There was nobody there. I just entered and asked, can I use the phone? And some girl was like, okay, use the phone. I started calling, and I only answered by the machine. And I kept calling, and finally, a girl there, someone she worked there, and she told me, I calling the American Embassy. I kept ignoring her because I'm so frustrated, and I kept calling, and the machine's answering. And finally, she took the phone from me, and she dialed the number, and she handed me the phone, and the guy said, this is a private line of the American Embassy. What's going on? Please, this is what happened with me. I plead to you. And he said, let me speak to the counselor, to the counselor. And he put her on the phone. She said, let him in. And then I got my visa 2 days after this. I made my flight to Atlanta. So I went back to thank that lady who dialed that private number that nobody knows about. And she told me she just left home. She doesn't even work here. She works at home. She used to be a maid there. So I still thank God for that very moment that I needed that girl. She was for me. Maybe then I may have some kind of inspirational message that maybe there's some kind of bread and butter for me here to eat. So I came here to the United States with $700 in my pocket. It was I got some help, but I had to work. I worked as a construction worker. I worked as a lawn mower. I worked as a babysitter, as a Subway sandwich, and I'm still available for babysitting. Except my weight is a bit higher now since I've worked before. So I worked all that kind of work. I worked and I had to make my living, and I had to continue paying for my exams, although I take some of my family's saving. So it was finally God blessed me with a lot of good friends that would help me. I had my friend of man. He had me stay in his apartment for about a year without having me pay anything. And he was a big brother for me. I had my second cousin who always supported me with a lot of great advices. So although it was a lot of struggle, my only transportation at that time was a bike, $100 bike that my second cousin granted me. Was, if you know Western Massachusetts, it's like a city of seven hills. And in the snowy days, rainy days, I'm biking, and people look at me like, what the hell? And I have to do it because I have no driver license and I have no work permit. But then God had me started in New York Methodist. So what I learned in my surgical residency was a lot. I still remember the first night I was in the surgical floor. First night I was in surgical ICU. You have hundreds of small mini tasks and about 2 or 3 or 4 of major tasks that you have to finish. And you have a few seconds to prioritize them. And you have to do that over and over again. And very constant pressure. Anything you miss, no matter how minor it is so countable. And that constant pressure turned into ordinary pressure. And that constant pressure turned me into a tougher person. Not only me, turned every single surgical resident into a tougher person. And also a thicker skin. You hear criticism and you have just to absorb it as you absorb the pain. And you just have to analyze it and just take what exactly you have just to strip it from the personal part of it and just keep it as professional as it can be. So I fell in trouble a lot because I was still not realistic at that time. I was still aiming for a lot of some of the value that I'm still going to pursue. But I still remember one of the great wise people said, whenever you fell in trouble, it's usually a combination of life being unpredictable and you being super dumb. But as you progress into leadership position of residency, you have to gain new skills. You have to learn how to be diplomatic. You have to know how to balance friendship with chain of command. You have to learn how to avoid conflict first, and then if there is a conflict, you have to learn how to turn a conflict into harmony. And if there's any conflict happen, how to minimize any damage that's outside your control. And you have to maintain a kind of family with your junior that you are responsible for. And you have to solve every single problem without causing any compromise to your integrity or the others. So a lot of lessons I learned. I learned to dare to be myself and to give it my all. And I still remember one of the I quote that the war does not care how many times you fall down, as long as it's one time fewer than the time you get back up. So thank you very much, guys. I'm just gonna thank my family, my parents, who life and circumstances and the war in Syria did not allow them to be here. God only knows how much real pain I have for not having my family next to me. It's not really for me, it's really for them, because I even prevented them from attending my real graduation of medical school. And this is the only joy that we have. And if time allows, I'm going to pay them back. And there's no single word. There's no single word. There's not a single word in any language can span the amount of gratitude that I have for them. I promise them in front of a few guys, I'm not going to let them down. I'm going to keep going forward. I'm going to keep on keeping on. I'm going to quit quitting. I'm just going to make them proud. I'm going to have them next to me. I'm going to show them the world. I also want to thank my dear wife, Nara. She's here with me. She spent the last 2 years with me. She made me, as a lot of people call, a different person. Less angry, more approachable. So, a lot of fork of her side. Thank you very much. So we spent a lot of beautiful moments, sad moments, difficult moments, but we passed it. And this is life. And I appreciate you being next to me. And we hope to continue our life together and also to graduate from your passion that you choose of interior design. I want to also thank all the esteemed faculty who were with me. I mean, the last party, I had the chance to thank them in details. Maybe the time will not allow that today. I have to thank Dr. Turulani. Dr. Turulani is a very generous person, and I say that fairly. He was very generous with me. He gave me multiple chances, and he allowed me to finish this program. And I'm very grateful to you, Dr. Turulani, for that. And I promise you not to let you down. I'm going to make you proud also. I thank you very much, Dr.
You earned it. You earned it,
sir. Who was like always for us, and who was the man who always let us feel the autonomy in the operating room. My neighbor, Dr. Reyes, I really appreciate that you really tore that paper. I really feel my heart today. I really did not even remember what I wrote. Thank you very much. Like when I operate with Dr. Reyes, it's really fun. It's not really operating. Like you really having kind of social positive experience. So Dr. Reyes, you are my man. And Dr. Boyolo, Dr. Boyolo and his wife. Thank you very much. Like every single operation I did with you, I really learned a lot. Like you always, like over all your experience we have, you took count sometimes to some of my sometimes approaches I call. So thank you very much for being with me. Sometimes we take extra hour or two just to do it completely laparoscopic. Thank you. Dr. Batal, I mean, there's no way I can thank you. You are my mentor. You stood behind my back and you supported me in those difficult times. All of you, Dr. Gorecki, Dr. Mendoza, and all the faculty. Dr. Wright, thank you for not a lot of operations that we work with, but every single operation I did with you was pretty, very special to me. Dr. Wise, you get me into the program. You fought for me, and I was a third year because of you. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody. I'm sorry it's a bit long. If this paper was not thrown, maybe it's going to be short. Lay your hands.